but I can't eat. Not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. A uniform to show you who I am. Boring, but it's so easy. Same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door. Strange place, familiar faces, old furniture, brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change.
We say that it's not what you've done, it's what you can become. We use arts to help facilitate that road to change.
Like a dream from a wishing well, my trawler eyes take everything in wild.
So everything that we do is about exploring ways that we can improve situations for the participants in the groups that we work with and help them achieve more positive outcomes.
A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows, crying out for more, like a hungry child full of life, a mishandled smiles, blown away like the flame of a candle out again, deafened by silence, fragile and lonesome again. A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows. There's a hush to destroy. I leap from the noise.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Lorraine. I'm one of the facilitators who have the privilege of delivering our Roads to Change programmes. We spent 12 weeks with a group of participants who were referred to us by Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. For those of you who don't know us, we are the Creative Change Collective, formerly Street Cones. We are a charity who use the arts and creativity to help people achieve more positive outcomes. The idea behind Road to Change is that we give participants an opportunity to do some fairly deep self-awareness and explorational type work. The space is safe and non-triggering, and we use fiction as a safety net, tapping into their creativity. Often participants consider themselves not to be creative, but we know from experience that is simply not the case. We are all creative. This group, like all of our groups, started week one with a blank page, supported by myself and my colleagues, Julie. They devised multiple fictional characters and story worlds while exploring various themes that grew organically from the sessions. One of the themes explored by this group was mental health in our justice content. End of programme events like this today are an opportunity for unpaid work to give local and wider communities insights into community sentences. They are also an opportunity for participants to raise awareness around important themes like mental health. Our programmes operate under a range of safeguarding guidelines, one of which we refer to as ANO-Pro-Drama. This basically means the sessions are anonymous and participants use first names only, and we ask that no personal details are shared. In a moment, you will see a short film from a read-through of the group script. Afterwards, we will have a question and answer with our panel, who I will introduce you to. You can start submitting any questions that you have in the comments section on YouTube. You'll need to be logged into YouTube to post a comment. You can also post questions on Twitter, tag us at CC Scott, or by email direct to my colleague Mark McNichol, or mark@ccc.scot. This short film and question and answer will take around an hour. We should be done by about 1 or 1:15 at the latest. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work Road to Change. Kaiser Soze is not my uncle.
So what's your story?
I'm just going where my feet take me. I did my madness and now I need to take off. This place is on fire, metaphorically speaking, like. Well, here's the number 10. Let's jump on that and see where it takes us.
Inverness, says so on the front.
Tickets, please.
Look, pal, we don't have our tickets yet. We were hoping to buy them on the bus, like, you know, but, well, this has all gone a bit counter-regular, eh?
Have you checked your pockets?
Sorry.
Your pockets for the tickets.
One adult ticket, destination Inverness, one way, tickets non-refundable. Is this? I mean, I didn't buy a ticket yet, so how the
A random leap, the start of something powerful, an epic journey. That's what you wanted, right? Well, ask and you shall receive. Gentlemen, now, hurry along, chop chop, tuck your seats.
I moved here to stay with my cousin, make a fresh start and all that, eh? But one night, I got into a scrap with some nads, doing some shit about my accent. Anyway, I lost it, ended in court. So shite. However, good thing, I ended up with this amazing social worker, Jenny. She's incredible.
My girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, we had a massive blow up tonight. Don't think it's repairable like either. But yeah, she's a social worker too.
No way, off, you're joking. What's her name?
Marie.
Phew, mine's Jenny. Well, Jenna, but I call her Jenny. Jenny from the block.
Well, anyway, Marie was pretty wild, fierce character, like, which is cool. Great at first, exactly what I was looking for, but after a while she started getting really controlling, needed to know where I was going, who I was hanging out with, wanted me to stop smoking. It was too much too soon, really. I think she just thought she could start making changes to me in my life.
Can you tell me what happened when you left my flat last Thursday, as much as you can remember?
I was thinking about the Kaiser Soze story I told you, about my uncle, about how you didn't believe me, about how no one believes me.
This is what your mind was focused on as you cycled down Burrell Street, as you rode right into the back of a moving bus.
French swallows. This is hard to hear. To relive, this anxiety is not new. He's lived with this almost daily since as long as he can remember.
I think I need to get help. You're right, I've been denying this my whole life. You've said it, my mum used to say it. I didn't want to hear it, like it meant I was defective or something.
Jenny squeezes French's hand. This is a breakthrough.
French, you're anything but. You're not a defect, French. You're bright, funny, creative, but you've been at the mercy of this your whole life. Your offending, your outbursts, these episodes where you drift off. These are all part of living with ADHD and social anxiety. You're not alone, French. You've always rolled your eyes at me when I've tried to bring up your mental health. But in the past, it's only got you into trouble. Getting a CPO or even a sentence. This time you nearly died, French. You nearly never came back.
core beliefs are learned and influenced by your early childhood experiences. They are deeply rooted in your belief system and define negative views about oneself. I'm worthless, defective, and hate myself. The world of environment. Why does no one care about me? And the future. Things will never get better. You've been living with this belief all your adult life, and it's cost you. Your relationships, your work, your joy.
French looks straight at the therapist and knows he's right.
Using cognitive behavioural therapy, you can isolate these beliefs. It starts with a distressing situation, a trigger, which causes a person to have negative thoughts. This causes negative emotions and physical stress, which leads to negative behaviours. Can you see that now?
So this all played out in your coma?
All of it. The bus driver was the doc, Mungo was me, the side of myself that wanted to leave, but the real me was deeply in love with you. I couldn't tell you how I really felt. I was just too afraid you'd think I was just an idiot, a defective. The bus had no driver, no destination, yet it was moving, kinda like me. Even pushing me to be better, and I put it down as nagging, being controlling. I'm sorry. I've been a prisoner of my past. CBT has allowed me to take practical steps to look at my beliefs and dysfunctional assumptions. If it wasn't for you, I'd never have faced up to this. I'd never have taken action.
Every time I sort of join into the read-throughs, I'm always really proud of the effort and the commitment that you guys put into it and what you're able to produce at the end of it. It's all really relevant topics that people choose for doing the Street Cons read-throughs, and I've really enjoyed listening to this and being part of this. I think this is now the fourth Street Cons event that we've been involved in, and each time I hear what you guys produce, I'm just always so impressed. You do so well. You were really good at your parts that you've played. And I'm looking forward to the next Street Cons event now. It's all really good.
The story came about from, we got given like 5 minutes to just think of a random sentence, and I remember that towards this, like in one of the scenes where French is saying like, oh, I got a gut feeling something wasn't right. I remember that was one of the things that someone said, and we like worked off different things and we just kind of made a story out of it. And then each week we kind of added in characters and like made a story around maybe like a 5 minutes where we just have a think and like make up something and then add it all together to make the story. Because I think that's how Mungo came about as well, where it was like someone said something about camping, so we stuck in Mungo going with a tent.
I come in like a few weeks into it, I was then like right to start, but I just find it's pretty much a pot. I'd just flinging ideas and then we see if we come out with that, and then kind of just put it together and made like a story with it.
Like these scripts could be made into something for like education or something. Yeah, like I definitely think that this could progress to and could benefit a lot.
Yeah, I think even like the fact that like we got to in this one discuss the whole like ADHD and like it obviously came up where someone like linked it to their own offending and then like talked about how CBT helps. So then like maybe someone who hadn't thought of CBT before, or even like Liv said, if like someone else got to like read this, they might consider CBT from that, and then it can help with that.
And well done everybody, that was a great script. I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to read it before and had picked out a few really valuable bits from it, and through reading it and hearing it delivered today, I got a real sense of that self-worth and self-value was a theme running through it, and then that realisation and hope at the end that was given that there are people out there to help, and that good news story or good news ending that came in. And just lastly, I sit on the Community Justice Partnership within the North East, made up by Aberdeenshire Council, Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, Police and other organisations. And one of the pieces of work that we've been really impressed with is the work of Street Cons and particularly the participants and the level and depth of involvement that they have. And I just want to reiterate, well done, folks. Great bit of work.
When I first came on and I first joined teams and there was all these random faces popped up, and I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely out because I thought if I was coming on next. I really did. I was like, oh god. And I was worried, but yeah, the group of people that was on there, you very quickly feel like it's a very confided group. Do you know, like, I don't know if anybody else gets that, but yeah, you feel like it's a space that isn't really discussed other than here. And I do like that about it.
With like reading and socialising and just getting confidence built up, it's helped a lot with that. So I'm definitely wanting to do it again, definitely.
We've been involved with the Street Guns event since 2020, and we will continue to use this because we found it's a really, really positive experience for those that have taken part in it. And it's, you know, it started with an opportunity for using some other activity hours of unpaid work. However, it's grown to develop to become something just slightly different. And yes, people can still get some other activity hours for their unpaid work orders, but we're opening it out to other people within our system that could benefit from everything that people have had from being part of the system. We've seen people grow in confidence. The topic you spoke about today, of people often sort of coming into our system having low self-worth, no confidence, having things from the past that have maybe impacted on how they feel about themselves and how life has turned out for them to some degree. But having a little bit of confidence through doing something like this is a huge step forward for people. So we use the service, really enjoy using the street cones and seeing, people participate in it and moving forward from doing so.
Like you've seen as the week went on, how we kind of formed like a wee group. Where like when we had the whole postman incident and everything, where like it was really like a support circle, like lovely. And even like there was a time I was isolating with COVID and I like wasn't getting to speak to anyone, so I was actually looking forward to the call, even just to get to chat to everyone.
This is like my first time doing community service, so but to me I find as I didn't get so worked up, anxious, so I like it.
I was getting folk to try out something new and like use like creativity, so I suppose like it might get some folk into like a new sort of thing.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's different. I'm looking forward to like being part of like a script from the start.
I'm already finished my course, but I've just bad on to like finish off the story because I've been there for like a whole thing, so I just might as well finish it.
It takes a lot of guts to start expressing yourself and put yourself into a script and on paper and share. And I just think it's been so impressive to read the scripts, particularly this one, and say well done everybody that's been involved.
Brilliant work, absolutely brilliant. Well done to everybody involved. Just remember to submit any questions in the comment box in YouTube, via Twitter at CCC Scott, or email direct at mark@ccc.scot. Before we make a start on the question and answer, I'd like to invite Teams Manager Craig McGrory to say a few words on behalf of Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. Hi, Craig.
Hi Lorraine, thank you very much. Yeah, like you said, my name's Craig McGrory. I'm one of the unpaid work team managers across Aberdeenshire Council. And my colleague Kirsty, who was speaking throughout the video, and myself kind of manage the service for Aberdeenshire Council. And similar to Kirsty, I think this is the 4th or even 5th kind of rollout of the kind of street cones that we've been involved with. So yeah, it's great to be involved again, and it was really enjoyable kind of watching the participants on the video yet again, and the effort that everybody puts in. It's amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Craig. Yeah, it's actually module 5, so we're really on our way with this, but we're doing absolutely brilliant work. I'd just like to introduce you all to the rest of the panel. We have got Darren Bruce from Police Scotland, Jeff Shaw from Aberdeenshire Health and Social Care Partnership, and we also have myself. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so honoured to have you here today. I have got questions for you. I hope you're ready. Thank you. So our first question is from Liz, and it's via email. Liz is asking, and what way are the mental health challenges faced by individuals in justice system different from others not in the justice system? Now, I'm not sure who wants to answer that first.
Lorraine, there's no volunteers, so
I know, I was just thinking that, Dan. Thank you so much.
It's such a difficult question to answer because there's so many pieces to this particular question. I think mental health challenges alone are such a difficult thing to have to face and seek help for. I think one of the positives that are coming through about the way that we work as a collective, as you see Jeff and Craig here, is that sometimes mental health access is something that unpaid work teams, Jeff's team, my own team can pick up on as something that someone might need and use the pathways that are available to us to see people through. Now, it can be such a big challenge for somebody who maybe in that system it doesn't see or doesn't have access to the pathway. So one of the things that we do as a collective is try and grow that pathways and make things easier for people who do enter into the criminal justice system to access the help that they do need.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Dan, because it is a difficult question. There is a lot involved with mental health. I have got another question. I'm going to be asking you all questions. Jeff, I hope you don't mind me coming to yourself. We got a Twitter from McGrory, and he's saying this: unpaid work has to be a punishment, but some people probably think that way would be, so they're asking that people are probably thinking that way, but they're asking what would your response be to that? Jeff, is it okay if I come to yourself? They're saying that unpaid work has to be a punishment. Is this something that you agree on, or? Hi, Jeff. Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Just double muted, that's why. Just picking up on that point, the whole concept of unpaid work is it does two things.
Sorry, Jeff, I actually think, I think I've read the question wrong. I'm going to say the question again. Sorry about that. I've just read it wrong. So what he's saying is, I'm not saying unpaid work has to be a punishment, but some people probably think that way. What would your response be to this?
The response will change in some respects. That's good.
Yeah, that's better.
The whole idea of unpaid work is the punishment element is that you pay something back to the community.
Yes.
The other bit of it is that actually it gives you an opportunity to try something new. It gives you an opportunity to begin to pay back that by a sentence that is not either prison or something that is completely punishment. The idea is that it wraps up those two things in one. So on the one hand, yes, it is a punishment given by the courts. Secondly, it then enables you to provide some restitution to the community or give something back to the community. And three, the people that actually, the recipients of the unpaid work, they gain an awful lot because often they couldn't have afforded to have had the job done. And therefore everybody, to a degree, gains by it.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. That's beautifully explained. Thank you so much for that. Craig, I hope you don't mind me coming over to ask you.
No problem.
We had a question and just asking about how do you have any feedback on the unpaid work that has been done through the Creative Change Collective, formerly known as Street Cones?
Yeah, most definitely. We get feedback from all the participants that have engaged with the Street Cones project, and it's overwhelmingly positive from all across the board, really. And it's always amazing to see the difference in people, like the participants that just spoke earlier on in the video, how they come into it a little bit skeptical, a bit nervous, a bit anxious, and a bit fearful when they don't know what they're getting involved in. And you fast forward that kind of a few short weeks later, and you see the difference in people where they are kind of really confident, and there's kind of the way they're carrying themselves is a lot better. I mean, even just watching that video today, you could kind of see happy, smiley faces that look joyful. And kind of people speaking about being confident in themselves. They enjoyed it. Charles says it all really
Yes.
when he said that despite finishing his unpaid work hours, he stayed on a
Yes.
voluntary basis to see the project through. Now, as an unpaid work team manager, that really is kind of, it says it all for me that kind of the order was imposed initially from the court. And touching on the previous question, I suppose there is a punitive element to unpaid
Yes.
work, that it is a direct punishment and paying back to the community in which you've offended. But we can work with people and put them on things such as street cones to the point where kind of bless Charles, he's kind of stayed on to do additional hours over and
Yes.
above what was imposed by the court because he was getting so much from this project. So yeah, I think in terms of feedback, it's overwhelmingly positive, and what people gain from engaging in it is amazing. It really is.
Yep. Thank you so much for that, Craig. I've actually got a question that's been sent in for myself to answer. So I've had a question from Adam via email. He's asking myself, how do participants respond to the anonymity element of the session? Do you know, that's exactly what you're just saying, Craig, about the difference in Charles. Completely different from day one. When they first arrive in the class, I think everyone's a bit out their comfort zone. I think everyone feels a bit uncomfortable. So once we explain to them what we call as the housekeeping rules, they kind of settle down. They're not sure of it, but by week 3, they definitely, they settle down, they understand it, and then they get to like it. They actually enjoy part of the anonymity because it helps them so much. Because sometimes they feel nervous if someone's going to know them or if someone's going to recognise them, but everything's all safeguarded. So Adam, thank you so much for that. I've got another question. And Darren, I'm coming to yourself. You knew it, you could see me. Darren, it's just a question from Janice via email. She's asking, is there a place for online services post-pandemic, or do most people want to get back to being in person?
Lorraine, maybe that's a difficult question to answer because I'm not sure what direction to take it in. Online services, as in the way that we're delivering this today, definitely a place for it, because what we found during the pandemic was that we needed to find some sort of ways to bring people together. We couldn't deliver unpaid work in the ways that it used to be delivered. If we think about the traditional setting for unpaid work, and Craig will know this, it might have been groups of people doing certain activities within communities, or people working in shops to help out. That wasn't achievable during the pandemic because, as we know, infection was something we had to control. So we came online and we started doing things online. What we find is it's a really flexible space. It allows connection there and then. And it takes out some of the barriers that used to bring people, that would have been a barrier to bringing people together, such as transport. That could have been an issue for people, or geography. So this has been a great place for bringing everybody together online. And we've all got used to it, and we've all settled into it, and we've all bedded into it. So, I'm expressing myself online here today, and probably 3 years ago, I would have been acting quite differently online. So it's definitely a place for it, and I think it's a really flexible way of doing lots of things.
No, I totally agree, Dan. Thank you so much for that, Craig. I'm going to ask yourself as well of this question, and then I'll come to you, Jeff.
Yeah, just exactly what Darren was saying. I think the geographical area of Aberdeenshire is kind of so huge, and it's from one end to the other, you're talking well over 100 miles. So to have kind of the facilities to be able to to get people from all corners of Aberdeenshire engaged in this same project, and we don't have to worry about transport, and we don't have to worry about geography. And kind of very simply, we can provide the participants with the internet mediated devices that are required, be it a phone or a laptop or an iPad, and as long as we can get them connected to the internet, then they're able to engage in programs such as kind of street cones.
Thank you
so
much.
I think in the digital age that we're living in, there's going to be no avoiding it going forward. I think it was all very new, and it came probably quite quick to people during the COVID pandemic. But I think now that we're kind of coming through the other side and things are starting to get back to some kind of normality, I think kind of this digital kind of life is going to be staying with us, and it's not going to be going anywhere. Certainly across the unpaid work service, we use a blended approach where we still have the traditional work parties and people going out in the local communities doing jobs, but we also equally use kind of this kind of forum a lot more than we ever have as well, and I'm sure that's going to continue going forward.
No, thank you so much, Craig, because I can tell as myself as a facilitator, like I can see the progress from people being online and people coming on, at first not being comfortable online, maybe not having their cameras on, and then, by week 12, they're asking for more classes. So that is really good. Jeff, can I just come to yourself, please? I'm just going to ask sort of a similar question about, do you feel there is an online service for, the Creative Change Collective sessions after the pandemic?
I think definitely online is valuable, is useful. It has limitations. As a qualified social worker for many years, I would also say that there are times when we do need to see people in person, when actually you can't
Yes.
see the communication. When you're having communication, sometimes the non-verbal communication is important, and you can't always pick that up. When you're
Yeah.
actually with somebody, and maybe they're under duress or they're stressed, you don't pick that up on screen, and you certainly
Yes.
don't know what's going on in and around them. So I think there's always times when people will require and be supported by face-to-face in person. And then there are other times when we're exchanging information, or when we're just saying hi, or we're catching up, and there's distance in between. We then don't lose an hour's travel. That
Yes.
means we can see actually 10 people in that hour rather than just one. So for me, it's almost like the old adage of horses for courses. You use IT when it's valuable and useful, and actually you still have to remember that there's a good old-fashioned face-to-face meet up at somebody's house, or in the cafe, or
Yes.
wherever, for a walk in the park, and that's as valuable, if not more valuable, at certain times.
Yes, thank you so much, Jeff. I've just had some messages in from some of our participants. Emma, who's watching live just now, said she's been talking about her mental health for the very first time in these sessions, and they're actually the highlight of her week. There's also more questions here as well. Craig, I'm just like to ask you, after the pandemic and the online classes, did you find that there was less online classes, or more people wanting to not be part of online classes?
After the pandemic's kind of passed us, you
I
mean?
think what I'm asking is, do you still feel the need for the online classes? Because I think they're so valuable, especially when the travel's concerned,
Yeah, and I think, like I've already said, I think if we lived in a more urban environment where it was a city centre and it was easily accessible for everyone to come to that one central location, that would make life a lot kind of easier
Yes.
in that respect. But I think, given the geographical nature of Aberdeenshire, it would be impossible for us to bring kind of 6 people together in one space without it being a huge upheaval for people, having to spend hours on a bus travelling to a destination to get there, where it's just so much easier to be sitting in your own home, and you can be sitting where you're sitting, wherever that may be, kind of in the world, really. There is no barriers online, and we can bring them same people together in an easier, kind of more cost-effective and less disruptive manner.
Yes.
So I think there is definitely a place for that, and there's also going to be a place for, like Jeff was touching on, when people need to come in, kind of more for supervision appointments. People tend to still come into offices, but for this specific project through Street Cones, kind of I think it being facilitated on the internet in this way is kind of fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much, Craig, because I know that we've done so much work doing lots of stuff with the Creative Change Collective, formerly known as Street Cones, but I've actually got another question for me. So via Twitter, Norman has asked myself, if we start week 1 on a blank page, how do you come up with ideas and characters? Do you know, I love getting asked this question actually, because it's so beneficial moving forward. It's such a support when people first come on. We do character work, we do improvisation, and they actually don't realise that they're starting to write the script as they come into class, and it's due with all the games that we play with them. And for you, I always ask everybody when they first come into class, what kind of movies they like. So you kind of get a rough idea what kind of characters they like. Do they like horrors? Do they like the good feel-good movies? So this kind of helps us, Norman, to gather our script together, and then by week 6 we're on a roll, and before you know it, we've actually wrote loads and loads of different stuff, and we started to make up characters. We do a lot of character work where we ask them, we become another character, and we ask them that, and we put them in the hotspot. So this is how we kind of do it, Norman. Thank you so much for that. Darren, I would like to just ask yourself, since you've seen some of the online work, you've been there, you've been with us, you've joined us, and I'm so appreciative that you were here the last time with us. Dan, do you see a big change in the first time that we done the class to, like the last module?
I definitely think so. I think when Street Cones came, it was definitely a professionally delivered service. It was definitely a way where people could come online and express themselves and get involved in something new and something creative. But as the process has gone on, skill is developed within the team that delivers Street Cones to meet what the Community Justice Partnership would like. And some of that is about getting the participants to explore their thoughts, feelings, but sometimes challenge their own actions, because as a point that one of it was taken out earlier, it was round about this has to be a punishment. Well, it doesn't have to be a punishment as such, but what it does have to do, as Jeff has mentioned, is this has to bring some good back into the community. And what we do see is actually the participants coming together and supporting each other. So in effect, they leave the work stronger, better able to support themselves in the film, and potentially even better to support others round about them who might find themselves in a similar situation of offending. Because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a sentence that's been put in place. So in terms of Street Cones getting better, absolutely, it's stronger. It knows what it has to deliver, and as time's progressed, that's improved. But I made the point, very good to begin with. Knew what the team was there to do.
Yes. Thank you so much, Darren, because I'm so passionate about the work that we do as well. I totally enjoy seeing someone come in from, the very first time to the time they leave, especially when they come back as volunteers as well. It's absolutely amazing work. I'd just like to say as well that Susie from email what would everyone say the benefits are of this type of work in terms of the impact that they can have on offending rates? Jeff, can I ask you that question?
Yeah, no problem, Lorraine. I think the benefits of this type of work, and it goes back to something Darren was just touching on, when you get a group of people together, they're actually able to challenge one another far more effectively than I'm able to challenge anybody. And when I say challenge, I mean actually challenge communication, challenge historic thinking, challenge those things that we heard of earlier, which said, this got rooted in me when I was a child. And as an adult, it's far more difficult to let go.
Yes.
So we all develop patterns of behavior, and some of them we call maladaptive patterns of behavior. And in essence, who is the best person to challenge that? Who is the best person to challenge you to then challenge yourself? And often it's somebody who's gone through a similar experience. Because people sit there and they go, what does he know? What does he know about this? What is old man, middle-aged man going on about? Whereas actually, if it's another 19 or 20 or 25 or 23-year-old, if it's another man or another woman in cases, and they say, this is my experience, and this is how I experienced it, this is how I dealt with it. That carries a lot of weight. And that by itself can then help somebody to start thinking, I've been doing this for so long. If I stop doing this, I have a better life. And the offending aspects of this, and are challenged by the very people who they see as peers, who they see as friends, who they see as colleagues, as opposed to it being somebody in authority. And authority folks are good, they help to set boundaries. The point at the end of the day is that this all has a common aim, and this is to support and help people to change, and help people to actually grow a better future. And it's should be all future focused. And that's really important. We can't change history. We don't have a time machine. We can't go back. I can't change my history any more than anybody else can change theirs. So this is about actually helping people to look forward and plan to do big things, better things, the things that they want to do, and help them to understand it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, it really did answer it. Thank you. But Craig, I would like to ask you the same question, please. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of impact and offending, it's kind of very simplistically, really, if people are leaving us in a better state than when they came. And when I mean a better state, I mean in more confident about themselves, feeling better about themselves, more belief in themselves. And throughout the process of kind of going through the Street Cones, we can clearly see kind of confidence in people coming back. And if they're able to take that confidence forward in their life and perhaps secure employment, which many people have came back and reported that kind of they developed that skill set through this opportunity, and then they were able to take that forward into job interviews where they presented a
That's
lot better,
brilliant.
they were more
Mhm.
confident about themselves, and able to kind of develop friendships, develop meaningful relationships, to be able to communicate paper with people, to be able to ask for support when it's required. Kind of all that kind of areas will hopefully have a positive impact on them not offending.
Okay.
A simple premise, kind of some offending behaviour is driven by kind of people's needs not being met and trying to kind of meet that needs in kind of unhealthy or maladaptive ways. So if they're able to still meet that need, but in a more positive kind of pro-social manner, which does not involve kind of offending or harming anybody or harming themselves, then that's definitely kind of a success in
Yes.
terms of kind of them not committing any more crimes, hopefully.
Yep. Thank you so much, Craig. Brilliant. Thank you. Dan, can I just ask you the same question? I think you might have covered it a wee bit, but thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Lorraine. Probably just to reiterate
Yes.
both points of Jeff and Craig, that when we see people enter into the work of street codes, they leave stronger, better able to support or challenge their own behaviours that potentially led to the offending in the first place. So it's work like this that does actually make a difference, and it actually challenges the beliefs of society, which is that the punitive measures such as jail sentences or things that we traditionally think as punishment works. Now, for certain people, those will
Yes.
work, but what we know for the majority of people is that unpaid work and community-based sentences are actually the way forward.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dan, because I know, Dan, you're such a great support. You know, when you come onto our live sessions and we come onto our read-throughs, you're such an amazing support. Thank you so much for that. I've also got an email from Kathleen saying, well done to all participants involved, and another fantastic script focusing on issues that are really important for people, especially now that we're addressing to life post-pandemic. I've also got a question for myself. Tom's asking, what types of creative games and exercises do you do with participants? I feel like just playing the games with you guys right now and showing everybody. But what we do, Tom, is we do different character work. We'll just say we change my name. I'll just say my name's now Margaret, and I'd be asking Margaret what kind of films does she like, or I'd be asking Margaret to give me a character name, and I would be saying that character name could be Mary. She could be age 32, and she could live somewhere else. She could be having hardships. She could be having problems at home. There could be abuse or alcohol situations, and that's how we kind of work on characters. We completely change the work, and that's how the work that we do, Tom. So I'm hoping that that answers your question. But I'd like to come back to yourself, Craig, and just ask you, you know, the work from, I'm going to say CCC, because we are formerly known as Street Cones now, instead of saying the full one. So CCC is a good one. But I'd like to ask you, Craig, do you find that after people come out, you know, you were saying about, I would like to talk more about the people that you were saying haven't been maybe employed afterwards. So this is a positive change. So do you actually, is this like a fact? Is this known? Is this just what happens? It's really interesting when you were talking about it.
Yeah, it was definitely, we've seen, I think it's 3 people that I know of have secured kind of
That is
meaningful
absolutely
employment,
brilliant
paid
news.
employment,
Yes. Mhm.
and kind of, it's only through conversations with their kind of
Yes.
supervising social workers that I can kind of track and
Mhm.
monitor kind of how people are getting on. So I don't have any official statistics or data that
No,
I can
and
give
that,
you.
no, that's fine, because we do the privileged environment where we're not, you know, like, we was just
Yeah.
asking. It was just very interesting, Craig, to find that out, because it's when they come into our classes, we feel that, you know, sometimes they feel as if they're not going to progress, they're not going to move forward. So then all of a sudden it's good to hear that coming from yourself, because we don't get the feedback sometimes, you know, like we'd like to hear it more. But I'd like to ask more questions. So this question is for the panel. Are sheriffs in Aberdeenshire enthusiastic about community sentences as an alternative to custody? I'm going to ask the 3 of you that. Jeff, I'll come to you first.
Okay.
I am assuming so, because of the numbers that we're given. So on the
Yeah.
basis of that, if we were given few, then actually you could draw from a conclusion from that sheriffs weren't that keen.
Yes.
The fact that we're actually given quite a few means that sheriffs are. I think it's also part of the government policy as well. So there is an expectation that people are not sent to custody when there isn't a reason for it. And obviously an element of that is about safety, it's about community safety, it's about things like dangerousness, and that's what the qualified staff do when they make their assessments, along with other colleagues as well in the police force, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But so in brief, I think sheriffs are keen for this. I think sheriffs like to hear positive outcomes, because if we're outcome based, outcome focused, then the more we can feed back to sheriffs that these sentences are working, and the more the sheriffs will use them. And therefore, days like today are very, very important, because what they start to do is demonstrate and provide the evidence to show this is working. Please listen to us.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. Thank you. Darren, can I just ask you that question as well?
Again, thinking on the point that Jeff just made, it's absolutely the case that there is a drive to give community-based sentences. There is an evidence base that these work over the traditional incarceration, custody-based sentences. And if we think about Scotland having the highest prison population in Europe, we start asking ourselves questions: are we really a bad society? And we're not bad. This is a very safe country to live in, but it does make us examine: do we need people in prison?
Yeah. Is
that having a positive impact on life? And you sort of argue no. The ability to strengthen somebody within the network that they have around them in the community is far greater if you leave somebody in that community, as opposed to putting them into one of the jails that we do have in Scotland. So I think there is a move towards that from sheriffs, and I think it is the right direction that we go in.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It is great that the sheriffs are recognising this. Can I just ask you, Craig, I've got another question.
Yes, of course.
Questions from Tony for the panel. Is public opinion in Aberdeenshire enthusiastic about community sentences as an alternative to custody?
I would like to think so. I can't really speak for all public opinion, but certainly in my experiences, I think what's been touched on, I think members of society and the public in general, I think hopefully gone are the days where you had attitudes such as kind of lock them up and throw away the key. There's still individuals with that mindset, but I think the majority of people nowadays can recognise that if you give somebody unpaid work and they engage in a project such as street cones, and is that going to do more benefit for that individual and more benefit for the wider community than sending them up to HMP Grampian for 3 months, where they'll sit in a cell and probably not have access to too much else in such a short period of time. And then when they come out, they then face homelessness, they then face damaged relationships, they then face kind of lots of loss and trauma that they've experienced. So in terms of kind of that wider public, I like to think that we are moving in that direction where people can see the more rehabilitative nature of what we do, rather than just the pure punishment and punitive nature of locking people up, which of course has its place, but kind of where risk warrants it and people are deemed to be too at risk to be in the community, custody certainly has its place. But for the vast majority of the people that come through criminal justice, social work services, community-based disposals are, I would say, far more beneficial to them as individuals and to the wider community.
Thank you so much, Craig. Thank you for that.
Lorraine, can I just come in? Because this question is actually really close to me about the public opinion. Public opinion is shifting. When I joined the police many years ago, not going to show my age, but public opinion was that the police would get justice, the courts would lock somebody up, and the courts would pop somebody in jail. And that's a public opinion that's been, over many years, probably back hundreds, when we looked at corporal punishment as acceptable. But public opinion shifted. Now there is a need. The public still want justice, victims of crime still want justice, but at the same time, there's a great shift in public attitude with an understanding about things like trauma, that actually people perpetrating crime there are reasons in the background for this. And I think with that public understanding, there is almost a sympathy and an empathy towards those who are offending, that actually the way that we're now looking at addressing those issues for people is a far better means of doing things than the old punishments that we used to look at. Because I think humanity, the nature of humanity is we want to help each other and make society a better place. The one way to do that is shifting public opinion towards community sentences where people truly can be helped.
Thank you so much, Dan, because I totally know, and like being in your company before, I understand the passion you have for helping this, this project as well. So I do appreciate that. So thank you so much. I have a question for myself. I've got a question for myself from Audrey. Audrey's asking, what are the CCC up to in the recovery community? She's asking about an event on the 25th of October in Oranmore. So what's happening in Oranmore on the 25th of October is we are having a whole range of recovery process from all different sessions that we've been attending, and it's called Recovering Voices. And what that's been, Audrey, is we've been doing this over the last 12 weeks, and we've been writing scripts with them. Everything's in their own words, and they are going to put a show together in Oranmore on the 25th of October, which is so exciting because this is an amazing moving forward project with Recovering Voices, and I'm really looking forward to all their hard work. We've actually been in rehearsals with them, and they have constantly, producing the goods. We've supported them, and we've had some really good fun times, and we're really looking forward to the show. And hopefully, Audrey, you can make it along. I really look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for that. I've got another question from Kathleen. Katrina. She said via email. She's just saying, I'm local in Aberdeenshire, not on a community sentence. I just started to watch all the Aberdeenshire's CCC streams and then all the other local authorities. She just wanted to message to congratulate her local authority, Aberdeenshire, on being so forward-thinking and innovative. That is just absolutely lovely to hear that from somebody. And I think that's for you all. This is a beautiful project and well done. I would just actually like to ask everybody before we actually conclude, what's next for unpaid work? Jeff, I'll just come to yourself first. That's by Tom from email as well.
Not often I dip out on a question, but on this one, I'm going to hand over to other people. Sometimes you have to know your limits, and you have to know when other people will have a better response. So
thank you so much, Jeff.
Craig, probably the best person to.
Yeah, I can take that one for you, Jeff. No problem. Yeah. So what's next for unpaid work? Well, I think everyone's predictions is it's going to be a lot more of the same. I think we're getting ever increasing numbers of orders coming out of court. I think since the presumption against short sentences is kind of embedded into practice, sheriffs are now imposing more and more unpaid work requirements, quite rightly so. But I suppose for us as a service, it's managing that kind of conflict on demand between resources and demand. And kind of we have kind of recruitment kind of can be challenging in some areas of Aberdeenshire and the more kind of remote areas, and getting the right staff in the right positions and filling all vacancies that we've got can often be a challenge. So I think developing that service, we know that there's not a bottomless pit of money, and we're not just going to be able to recruit lots and lots and lots of staff to deal with that demand. So I think, like I touched on earlier, we've very much over recent years have moved to a more blended model where we have people on work parties, we have people doing things digitally such as street cones, we have people working on individual placements in charity shops, we've got a lot of people do kind of home working tasks, people that are maybe physically not able to get out and about in the community. So we can give them kind of, for example, we make a lot of planters and a lot of bird boxes. People are given the kits to make that in their own houses. And then once that's completed, we donate them to primary schools, and the primary kids plant all the planters and put the bird feeders out. Or kind of in town squares and local areas and communities where there's maybe flowers needing kind of to be put on display. So being creative, I suppose, and there's not one way to tackle kind of unpaid work. We have many,
Mhm.
many different avenues that we kind of use that kind of blended approach,
Yeah.
and we can tailor that to individual need, because not everybody's fit and able and to go out
Yes.
and kind of do some physical kind of demand and labor
Mhm.
intensive job that maybe people perceive as unpaid work.
Yeah.
There's still a place for that, and we still have lots
Yeah.
of work parties that go out and collect litter and do beach cleans and
Mhm.
kind of trim hedges and cut grass and kind of all that traditional type work.
Yeah, I really feel, Craig, talking to you about this, it really feels as if there's a lot of support in place.
Yeah,
with
most
everything you're
definitely.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So moving forward with unpaid work, it will just be trying to kind of make sure we have the resources to meet that demand, because the
course.
demand from the courts is kind of, there's only one trajectory, and that's up the way in terms of
Yes.
unpaid work.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that, Craig. Thank you. Darren, I'm going to ask you, what are the community police up to? You know, and like, how are they finding any problems that they're trying to solve as well? Sorry, Dan, what I'm trying to say is, what's next for the community policing and community justice?
Thanks, Lorraine. So the partnership you see here today, we're all members of the Community Justice group in Aberdeenshire. One of the things we're really passionate about is delivering this supportive help through CCC. We think about the community justice system. It's a very important system, and it's a system that's here to stay, but it is a system and a process. And it's been really important that we've started to look at that process, not just as an area, but as a country. One of the things that we're quite passionate about and driven on, actually quite well advanced on in the North East, is what's called diversion from prosecution. And if we think of the process, prosecution being an endpoint, but what we really need to do is understand that sometimes when people offend, it's the first time they'll come to the attention of a service. It's not always necessary that that person reaches the end part of the traditional process, which is prosecution. The bit that we are working hard on at the moment is this middle piece, where we need to divert people from this prosecution towards the support and the help that they need prior to this offending behaviour escalating. Essentially, it's like an early intervention. That's what we're working on. We're really passionate about at the moment, and that has the benefits of safer communities, addressing behaviours at a far earlier stage. And it's the kind of thing that we'll be looking at CCC for as we go forward in the future.
No, thank you so much, Dan, because I know like we're both passionate about the same support given and working in that same way to try and reduce the reoffending. So thank you everybody so much. I'd just like to ask Jeff one question before we finish up. And Jeff, I was just asking, what about Aberdeenshire? How is Aberdeenshire supporting the mental health? Sorry, I'm asking, I'll rearrange that question, Jeff. I'm asking, where can people in Aberdeenshire go for the mental health support?
Okay, Lorraine, there's on two levels. We are doing a lot in Aberdeenshire,
Yes.
and we have a local strategy which helps to, I guess, design services and helps then keep us in a clear direction. In relation to the practical issues about where do you go to actually get mental health support, and I'm going to talk about mental health and well-being just for a few seconds.
Yes.
People often confuse those two concepts.
Mhm.
Mental health often is linked to clinical health, and the people that are best to support that are often in GPs. GPs have access to primary care support workers. At the same time, there is also a whole host of voluntary sector and charitable support networks, national and regional and local, and some to Scotland folks. And I won't go through them all. But there's folks like Penumbra and Sam H and the Samaritans and on and on and on.
Yes.
And to an extent, that's where a clinical mental health journey starts. In relation to mental well-being, that's got from lots of different sources, and that can be from friends, from family,
Yes.
from colleagues at work, from people that you know. My advice would always be, who's the person who's going to be least surprised by something that you do successful? Who's the person who you would turn to most, who's going to be most supportive? And I would
Mhm.
suggest that rather than seeking out somebody else to show them that you can do something, seek out that person that actually is the most supportive person, and then talk to them, because
Yes.
often it's very close to home that
Yes.
that mental well-being can be secured, and where actually you'll find the greatest help. And to an extent, then, if things become really challenging or desperate, then there is always somebody there to listen. And
Yep.
and Darren won't mind me saying, I'm not saying that we should contact the police
Yes.
first, but if people do come into contact with the police, there's
Yes.
often behaviours that bring people
Mhm.
into contact with police officers.
Mhm.
Police officers are now well trained and have
Yep.
pathways that they can signpost people to for things like crisis intervention,
Mhm.
etc., etc. So there's an awful lot of help out there. Sometimes it's about supporting people to the right help at the
Yes.
right time, rather than the wrong help at the wrong
Yes.
time by itself. And that's a short answer as I could give over a very big topic.
Yes.
And
I know.
what
Thank
is
you.
important is that mental health is incredibly important,
Yes, it so is.
and we shouldn't ignore it. We ignore it at our
Mhm.
peril, and for
Yes.
that, it's one of the priority areas for Aberdeen Health and Social Care Partnership.
Yep. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. And I'd just like to conclude by thanking our panelists today, Jeff, Darren, and Craig. Thank you so much for being here with us. Would you like to say anything before we finish up?
I'd just like to thank everybody for their questions. There was some real
Yes.
interesting ones
There
there,
was,
and it's
wasn't there?
always a
Yep.
pleasure. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be involved in these sessions.
Yep.
And it's really good to see that there's interest in the community and there's interest in
Yes.
the public, that people take time out their day to actually sit and watch us, be it on YouTube or Twitter
Yes.
or whatever platform they're looking at.
Mhm.
I'm glad that it's not just us sitting talking to ourselves, which would be a bit of a waste of time.
No, it's much appreciated, Craig. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Darren, as well. I don't know if you want to say a few words before we finish up.
Thanks, Lorraine, and just to congratulate the
Yeah.
participants once again
Yeah,
for
brilliant.
the effort and work, and thanks to Craig and team for helping the participants through this, because I know it took a lot of work. And lastly, thanks to the people who are have been in touch with the questions. And I think that sometimes the most challenging questions are the best ones, because it helps you rebalance your own thoughts about the direction
It does.
that we
Yep.
as professionals try to take things in the Northeast for the public.
No, it's much, and understand completely, Dan. Thank you so much. It's really appreciated. And Jeff, thank you so much. Would you like to say anything before we finish up? It's
Just
been
to
a
echo
pleasure. Yes.
what's already been said. I mean, I think not only have I put a shirt on today, and tried to smart myself up a little bit because I knew Darren would be on, and I think the other thing is just to say that the real stars of the day were the folks that actually contributed to what we saw on the screen. That actually it's great to showcase this type of
It definitely is.
project, and to say that hopefully there'll be many more opportunities. And I've really enjoyed participating, and for the questions.
Brilliant.
And it's nice, because it's nice to get it's nice to get, I suppose, from the front line, comments from
Yes.
the front line and questions from the front line. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. And also, Lorraine, thanks to you who
Oh,
facilitated
thank
this
you so much.
really, really well. I appreciate bringing us in and asking us the
Yes.
questions on behalf of people.
Thank you so much. I'm truly passionate about, the Creative Change Collective. I really am, and I absolutely adore working with everybody. And it's an amazing to meet you as well. I just want to thank everybody who has joined us today, and thank all the audience and the platforms on, different social medias who've came today and gave us all their questions. And thanks again, Jeff, Darren, and Craig. It is much appreciated. So if anyone would like to please subscribe to the Creative Change Collection, the channel on YouTube, or switch on any updates. Also check other projects on any YouTube channels. The links to all of our social media accounts are all on our webpage at cc.scot. And again, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, and goodbye. Thank you.
Hungry but I can't eat. Not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. A uniform to show you who I am. faces all of the time, and my God.